Every day of every week of every month this year, thousands of people will bring home a personal computer. Every single day. Chances are some of those people will come to feel disappointed in the computer they chose. Maybe they wound up with less than they really needed, or didn't get the support they really wanted. Maybe their computer doesn't do enough, or maybe it's just too hard to get it to do anything. At the same time, there are many other people who feel very good indeed about owning a computer. They keep finding better ways to use it, more ways to enjoy it, and new ways to improve it. You might call these people lucky, but they'll be the first to tell you that luck has nothing to do with it. Because when you come right down to it, knowing whether or not to buy a personal computer, or even knowing which computer to choose, only takes a little common sense and some good advice. So for the next few minutes, you'll be hearing just that, common sense and good advice. And you'll be hearing it from real computer owners, people who will tell you in their own words why they did what they did and what they found once they did it.
Well, we were kind of a quiet, typical American family and kind of passive, and then the computer came along.
I just don't know how we would exist without it.
I'd run away from my parents and find somebody with a computer.
No, he wouldn't do that.
The three of them became violent, semi-violent.
Well, no, I was in genealogy before I knew about
I know
a
you were,
computer.
but I thought you were in love with your computer now.
Oh, I am in love with my computer.
I can't get them off the computer. It's a family war at the computer, I guess.
He said, "What are you going to use it for?" And I said, "I'm not going to use it. The kids are going to use it. The kids can't go through life being computer illiterates."
And I have a lot of paperwork. I'm a collector of paper. And I was trying to find a way in order to get rid of some of the clutter, which my husband doesn't really like.
I raise registered Angus cattle, show cattle, on the farm. I need a method to keep records of their pedigrees and their performance, their offspring.
We needed something to help us budget our, organize our budget.
And he said, this just came in. It's a first personal computer. He says, I don't know how it works. I don't even know how to put it together, but I do know that it's going to change the world. And he was so excited about it that I caught that enthusiasm.
I first decided to get involved with computers because I saw a lot of kids who knew a lot more about them than I did. And I realized that it was a technology that was really affecting music a lot, and there were a lot of possibilities.
I became interested in using a computer in the first place by joining a group connected with our genealogy society.
And Mim, after a while, she said, "Oh, geez," she says, "it's the wave of the future. We have to do it."
Just sort of doing stuff, computer games and stuff.
Do you have a favorite, Nate?
Muppet keyboard.
You do our accounting, too.
Yeah, I do. All of our bookkeeping, all the accounting, input all the checks, for our checking account, balances them. It makes reconciling bank statements very easy.
You know at the end of the month, instantly, exactly how insolvent you are.
I just felt like I was sort of on cloud nine. Using the computer, it was so much easier than using the typewriter.
Well, what I mainly use is the word processing program, which I find is really good. I do a lot of letters.
I started using it as a journal, and I found that I have been keeping a journal for about 20 years, writing one. And it was so wonderful to be able to go upstairs and type out thoughts for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I write poetry on it. I communicate with a lot of friends, actually, just for personal use. I make letterheads. I make lists. I keep track of all kinds of activities in my life.
I only use part of the spreadsheet. I use it for lists of business contacts and things like that.
One of the programs that I uses a video camera, which I thought was really handy. If I have a problem drawing let's say a car, for example, at a certain angle, with this video camera, I can go out and take the shot of the video, or shot of the car, and it appears on the computer, and then I can draw from there.
I'm a typical adult. I use about 10% of the computer, like I do with my mind, I don't explore as much as the kids do.
We have invested in some educational software for the kids, and we didn't actually buy any until after the kids had really learned their shapes and their colors and most of their numbers. Our kids were 3, I think, and we're in preschool when we got our first educational software. Actually, some of it was a gift.
The things I like about the computers most are the games.
Now, in a way, I kind of disagree, because I think the educational games are pretty good themselves. You know, they turn it into a game, but then, like the kids really don't realize that they're learning, but they are.
You can make banners and cards and signs. Make cards.
I think that's how you learned how to write your name, isn't it, on the computer?
We live in Kansas City, Missouri, and we use our home computer to make this newspaper. Right, Tony? Yes. I yell, Christy, what's 4 times 4? Oh, 16, you know. And then when she tells her teacher at school, Kristen, how'd you learn all this? You know, teacher's surprised.
The grammar and speller programs are excellent because children tend to not want to take the time, and this forces them to take a look at their mistakes. Her friends are interested, and she has a lot of her friends over. They come over and they do group projects together on it.
I do my homework on it. I've done 2 reports on it. And I made a baseball score sheet for our other computer.
And I was afraid he could never write in longhand again. That was a big concern I had. But as a result of his work with this computer, when he is writing in longhand, I find it to be more careful, more concise.
The most cool thing about this computer is that the computer talks. I mean, there's not very many computers in the world that can talk, but I'm glad that there are some that do.
It just goes into her mind. She doesn't realize it, that she's having fun. Well, she realizes she's having fun, but she doesn't realize she's learning.
I think I checked maybe 6 stores before I finally bought one. The first store I visited, I had a difficult time with the gal that was the girl salesman. Salesperson. It seemed like she just wanted to sell the computers.
And I was blitzed and ritzed and made to feel like I was what I am, a moron in this business, and I responded the way I think most people. I walked out of the store.
But there were other dealers in the city who did give us support, no matter what kind of support we needed. And of course, I needed a great deal of support.
I just hate shopping, but it was a good experience. I learned a lot about computers and what they could do from talking to salespeople.
All our computers since that first purchase have been with a dealer, and they walk you through it, through the programs, almost hand-hold you, showing you how everything can be done and how you can use it to the maximum advantage. So I think the most important thing is a good dealer.
The one I purchased was very expandable. I started out with a simple monitor. I'm no computer expert. I still am not.
Basically, the word processing equipment. And we've since added
an external disk drive.
Right.
And a keypad, because a lot of
a calculator keypad.
Then later we added the mouse.
Right.
And a joystick for games.
We needed to send things by the modem, and we needed to print things out. We needed to have a decent printer that printed at a decent, decent rate. So when we put everything together, the cost of it wasn't the major factor.
Well, at first I thought this is an awful lot of money to be spending on something that I don't know anything about, and I don't know how I'm going to use it.
Still considered them somewhat of a luxury. I wasn't totally convinced we needed one.
I says, wow, where are we going to get the money? I says, we're into so many other collectible things, and might be another fad or something.
No, I felt when we first bought the computer that, oh, I don't know whether we should be spending this money and everything. But now I feel it's a necessity. It cuts down on time. My time is very important with these 2 children, and I really use it a lot to... What, sweetie?
Kevin wanted a computer so much that he saved his own money and actually bought the computer that he's got.
I put half of it on my credit card and just figured I'd pay for it somehow. And I'm really glad that I did now, because it turned out that it's paid for itself several times over. And now I'm using it for so many things I never thought I would.
When I got it home, I was really excited and I put it on, because I didn't have my room. I just redid my room and I have a place for my computer. So I put it on the dining room table and I just like worked and worked and worked. But it took me about a half an hour to finally get it all together so I understood like what it meant.
I brought it home. I immediately took it out of the boxes, hooked it right up. It was very simple to hook up. And I had about 5 kids in the house and they all just had to play with it.
To set up the computer was very simple. It probably took me 2 hours.
When I got home, I was petrified that you were going to have broken it.
Yeah, well, Adam was
didn't
about...
read the instructions.
Right, but it was very simple, and Adam had already thrown the mouse all the way across the room, and I was scared it was going to break, but it's virtually impossible to break.
Mouse?
The mouse, the thing you use to operate the computer.
Then I managed to get it upstairs and find an old bench I could set it on, and got the printer hooked up that night.
Oh, it was really easy. My dad told me to read the books. I still haven't even read them.
I took it home, put it on my table, and disassembled it.
I wanted to see what was inside, really. He took it apart.
And then I thought to myself, by golly, I really should have turned it on to see if it worked first. That's what I did.
If you want to buy a computer, the first thing you should do is talk to me. I'm very enthusiastic on support of computers and by the use by everything from a child of 3 years of age to a senior citizen. And I don't want anybody to say I can't learn computers.
I guess what I would tell somebody when they were going out to buy a computer would be a couple things. One is to make sure you know what you want to use it for. It's probably the biggest thing that I run into with people who I know who've gotten computers. They buy something that's either not big enough for what they want or too big.
I think it'd be very easy. Just make up a laundry list of what you want this computer to do for you. And then go out, check out all the computers, and make sure that the list is matched up with the computer.
I think if you wanted to buy a computer, you would have to consider the quality of the product, how long is it going to last, what kind of maintenance does it need, and where can you get that maintenance?
I would first talk to my friends and neighbors, people that you work with, find out, some of the problems that they've had, what they've run into, learn from their mistakes.
Find somebody, a friend you trust, who can walk you through what the different components are. Do you need a hard disk? Do you need a letter quality printer? Do you need, exactly what kinds of things do you need?
And then you should also know what kind of software you're going to need and how to, what kind of questions to ask the salesperson at the store you're buying.
I usually tell my friends who ask me advice about buying a computer to buy as much as they can. A lot of people think, well, they don't really need this second disk drive or a printer, but especially a printer. The printer is so important because it allows you to print out your letters right away. You can use Print Shop and feel success with the computer, and I think that's important.
I could live without my computer, but life would not be as full. I really enjoy it. It is more like a hobby that is turned into a tool that I really like to use.
I went back to school this year, and I don't think I could have gotten a good grade on the course I took going back to college after being out of school for 20 years if I hadn't had that computer. It just saved me so much time on my papers, and I came out of that with a course with an A, and I think that computer was basically did 50% of the work.
I think it's opened up a whole new world for Jim, who always, I think, had a flair for writing, but had no way to express that.
I'm sure everybody's bought something at a certain point in their lives that they spend all this money on and then it just sits on the shelf. And the computer, for me, has not turned out to be that way. I use it every day, and I couldn't live without it at this point.
I started off using the computer for games, and I find that it's been, a godsend in trying to get me organized. And having 2 kids and working full time, I really find that organization is a key word in my life. So I find that I've gotten so used to using the computer. Sorry, can you come back here?
Since I started using a computer, my personal boundaries have become the size of the planet. I'm communicating with people in over 20 countries now, and in a real intimate way every day. We talk about professional things, we talk about personal things, marriages, births, deaths, business activities, the works. It's just a normal way to extend yourself out to the limits of the world.
it was like almost a magical thing for me because every day I'm finding more and more things to do with the computer, and it's just amazing. One thing leads to another.
And I ran into a guy in all places in Cutler, Maine. Now, you can't get to Cutler, Maine. There's a lot of people that would be absolutely convinced that Cutler, Maine is a mirage. And I actually met one of the natives there when I thought I was doing well in the computer world, and he had a modem, and he was hooked up to CompuServe, and I couldn't stand the thought of that bucolic idiot getting ahead of me, so I went out and bought one, and I'm groping with it, and there's a whole world out there. There's university databases that I can plug into. CompuServe could bankrupt me just with their marvelous services. And I'm going to get wired, and I'm going to be able to transmit files and receive them, and I'm going to go back to Cutler, Maine if I'm ever able to find it again, and I'm going to tell that guy, to you.
Not too long ago, you had a lot of questions about personal computers. You wondered how you'd shop for one, how you could use one, how you'd get up to speed on one. Since then, you've heard some pretty good answers. But as we all know, one good answer can sometimes lead to a whole new set of questions. So now we'd like to offer you one last bit of advice. Before you bring home any computer, ask all your questions where you're most likely to find all the answers. And where might that be? We know just the place.